Guys, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us today. I have some of my friends, and I just wanted to share some ideas around what to do with Easter this year. Now, typically, there's some churches that are represented here that we could never match what they do at Easter for scope and size and budget and creativity. But this year, the playing field is different for everyone. And some of my dearest friends don't even know what they're going to do for Easter yet. So I got these guys together because they all contribute in some way. If you guys could go through and just tell us really quick your name, your church, and what your role is at that church, that would be super helpful. So Jimmy, we'll start with you.
Sure. My name is Jimmy Purchase, and I serve as the creative arts pastor at Spanish River Church in Boca in South Florida. And I oversee Sunday morning tech production, work with our teaching team, and all things Sunday morning.
And sadly, even though he lives in Boca Raton, he's a Florida Gator fan and not a Miami Hurricane fan. Justin. You have to unmute yourself, Justin.
Hey, Justin Thomas, Northview Church, Indianapolis, Indiana. And I am lead worship pastor and oversee music, production, and service programming.
Fantastic. Greg?
Yeah, my name is Greg Reade. I'm at Christ Fellowship Church in West Palm Beach, executive director of all creative, so production, worship, film, programming, that whole world.
Awesome. Drew?
Yeah, Drew Bodine from Central Church in Las Vegas, executive pastor of our Weekend Experience, which is all things music, production, marketing, communications, and films.
Tyler? Or not Tyler. Maybe Tyler froze up. So, Tyler, you're back. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sorry, guys. I'm not sure what's happening there.
The internet's really terrible in Atlanta. We know. It's like a third world country.
Apparently. So Tyler Reagin, spent a decade at North Point with Andy Stanley programming for churches, and then went to Catalyst for 7 years. And then I've been doing all the leadership consulting, but I've stepped in as the interim service programming director at First Baptist Orlando this year. So kind of working with a big traditional church on how to move towards a creative step or creative process. And then also just walking through this crazy season.
Awesome. Josh Holiday. And yes, that's his real name, Josh Holiday.
Yes, Josh Holiday, based in Orlando, but I work with churches like Elevation with their weekend programming and special service programming and music production. Also work with the church C3 NYC. Doing the same kind of stuff, just helping with programming and music production.
Awesome. So as we've talked about, this year, church is going to be totally different. Guys, tell me a little bit about what you're doing to program Easter at your church. There's no multi-site because everyone's in one site this year. And a lot of the maybe tricks that we would typically go to have been removed from our toolbox. So individually, kind of just give us a little brief description of what you guys are working on and what you've planned. And we know that everyone's plans aren't finished or finalized yet, but from where you're at today, what do you guys have programmed for Easter, and how are you going to deliver Easter online this year? Jimmy, go ahead and start us off.
Sure. So in my context where we're at, not only are we dealing with all the COVID-19 stuff, but we're also in the middle of a senior pastor transition. And so right when I felt like we finally got our footing and we were making some creative headway, this happened. And so it definitely threw all of our original Easter plans out the window. And we're trying just a lot of different things right now. We're looking like we're going to roll with a stripped down band. We have a huge volunteer team that we lead and serve, and they do an amazing job. A lot of them want to stay home, which I totally understand. So the number of musicians and worship leaders we have on our team available to serve is much smaller than it used to be right now. So we're going to probably roll with a stripped down band and trying to have a communicator with a backdrop that just matches the context in which someone's going to view the content. So we're kind of working with that right now.
Awesome. And are you going to go live, or are you going to pre-record, or are you not allowed to say? Is that CIA information?
Well, so we went live the last 2 Sundays. This Sunday is our first attempt at a pre-recorded service, I think, in the history of our church. So we're stepping out new territory for us. And I think based on how that goes, we're going to make the call whether or not to go live or pre-recorded for Easter.
Totally cool. Drew, what are you guys planning so far at Central?
Yeah, I mean, just like everyone here, we've shifted just our overall Easter plans. I could tell you in the past, if you've ever seen Central Church's Easter's experiences, we go all out. And I can just tell you this year, we're not going all out. I think that sends the wrong message in the season, especially when resources are going to be more scarce for a lot of us. We're not going all out, but we are going to still keep the energy up. We're going to have our full band on the platform. I can tell you, we're thinking through things like there's no more than 10 people on the platform, because that's right now what they're recommending is no more than 10 people gathered. Obviously, if you count the camera people on the other side, there's more than 10.
They're invisible.
There, but
they're totally
invisible. But, we're spaced 6 feet on the platform. I will tell you, in years past, the weekend before, we did like a Good Friday, Palm Sunday combination of church service. This year, we're going to just keep the weekend before Easter pretty relative to the times that we're in. And then Friday night, we're going to do a Good Friday, more of a meaningful, strip back, take communion together, remember the cross type experience. And then on Easter Sunday, we're still wanting to bring that energy and that excitement. I can tell you that we are doing a hybrid between pre-recorded and also live. And some things that I've found to be really helpful in this season is all the pre-recorded stuff takes the pressure off on our video team and our music team on having to make sure every camera shot is just right. So we're ISOing all the cameras, and then we go back and we remix the audio to make it sound as best as it can. If a vocal fluttered or didn't sound great, we'll re-record the vocal, and we'll edit all the camera shots to help serve that online audience. I mean, just look at American Idol and other shows alone. When they're live, they're not typically live. They've pre-recorded a lot of this stuff, and they have a team that cleans it up before you actually go live. And so that's our plan. But one thing that's been helpful for us is all the host times is keeping those live. And I think just giving people the opportunity to do shout outs, and we can say, hey, Joe from Maryland is watching, and Stephen from Nashville is watching. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for joining us. Also, live prayer too has been a game changer as well. So we're also going to roll out a couple original songs Easter, or not couple, one new original song at Easter, and some that we've just been introducing the past couple of weeks. So it'll still be super energetic and fun, but in the context of the season we're in.
So great. Justin, tell us a little bit about the programming in your world.
So we started at 8 a.m. today and finished at 3:30, reprogramming, reimagining. And we started with 2 ideas, and I think we've ended the day. We started with worship in the round, and we were thinking some type of camera that was a one-shot capture. So a camera that's sitting still and it spins the whole time, and the band and the worship team are around them, and capturing a 3.5-3-song set that way. And we just never could feel like we had the right environment and the right context. And so at the end of the day, one of our guys was like, what if we do it in the field behind the church building? There's a big field back there. And so we're actually looking, I think, at doing a sunrise capture one day next week in the field behind the church, probably a one-shot capture, worship in the round, one camera in the middle. There's a local worship band in our church that just released a new single called Worthy King. So we're going to open, it just tells the story of the resurrection. So we're going to open with that and then move into a time of response.
So great. Greg, tell me about it.
Hey, well, we just got finished yesterday. We actually had flown to Israel and shot all of our message content.
What church can't do that?
Yeah. I mean, so, So honestly, we wrestled last week. We watched it back a few times, and it was funny because we actually, even though it was in Israel, the whole message was actually around Saturday. And, we celebrate Sunday. There's Sunday the resurrection, but for many of us, we're still sitting on Saturday waiting. So it turned out like the content was perfect for the situation. So we actually said, okay, we still want to use it. We're going to have to re-edit it and kind of shoot a new in. And we hadn't actually shot an outro, so it worked perfect. But we decided, just like actually Justin, what you just said, we actually just finished shooting a sunrise service yesterday. So we set up Monday, we actually just set it. We kept it pretty low production. We just took one of our portable campus rigs and set it up outside. No PA. We just kind of monitored into another room. And then we rehearsed Tuesday night right at sunset, captured some B-roll just to give it, it's full band. We definitely went electric, not full out, 5 vocalists, kind of half semicircle, tried to make it feel like we weren't just leading to a crowd, but more the screen. So we shot a sunrise. We nailed it. South Florida, thank God for weather. We nailed the sunrise service yesterday. And a lot of that for us, we started doing a sunrise service about 3 years ago in our church. And it's just kind of found this special place. We do it every sunrise at one of our main campuses outside. And it has that balance of traditional, but it also has that newness to it, that it hits a pretty wide spectrum. So we adjusted the set list. We kept it shorter. We got some more hymn in there, just knowing the breadth of who we're hitting. And then we actually shot we did pre-shoot all of our host parts. We've been going live every weekend, but for Easter, we decided to pre-shoot everything, even the pre-service show, just because we shot it all on set. So it just felt so much better. Our senior pastors walked right on, just like they would after the first song, just walked right in to a boom mic. So it felt natural that they weren't, there's not mics in hands. But it turned out to be, just even for our team, a special time. No less than 10 people. There's 10 people exactly. Everyone's spaced out. We try to do our best to, we even kept our, production teams pretty slim, just enough people to pull it off. But it turned into just kind of a special moment. So we're excited. We shot a new end to the Israel message and just kind of were really honest with people. And we've been trying to do that through all our programming. Hey, this feels weird and this isn't what we planned, but this is where we are now. So we even reshot the intro to that message and just explained like, hey, we shot this a month or two ago with the hope that it was going to be the Easter message. And while, it might feel different, the context of it was exactly what we felt like people need to hear right now. So we're wrapped up and now we're into editing the next few days. And we're at the piece, and I say for our size church, we're actually kind of an upside to a lot of this is TVs become pretty cheap right now. So we actually bought a few spots on Easter Sunday on some of the main networks here, just through some relationships we had. And we've actually spit out a 28-minute TV show cut of Easter service, just trying to do our best to kind of lead our region, just pastor our region. It became we kind of opened our head and said, hey, sports isn't on. There's a bunch of stuff that, networks were kind of looking for stuff. So it really worked out well. So we're just trying to leverage that to kind of not just pastor our church, but really in this season, pastor our region through it.
So great. Tyler, did you guys go to Saturn? Since Greg went to Israel, did you guys go to Saturn to record Easter?
Negative.
No?
And
okay.
We've actually, I don't know about any of the rest of Florida, but Orange County, where Orlando is, has just been given, starting tonight, a 14-day stay at home. And so now I'm really grateful. On Sunday, we recorded next 2 weeks services after we recorded a live stream, just in case, just insurance. And now we're really glad we did. Because now it's getting creative on, okay, I think we can still pre-record all these pieces so that only a certain amount are in the room, those sorts of things. But it just makes it tricky. And then you add on top of this is a 110-year-old church or something like that hasn't normally a traditional 8:30 service plus, 10, 11 and Monday night. So we're just figuring out this hybrid. We've got to figure out some way to incorporate. There's going to be a fun way. I think we're going to incorporate the choir doing something. Everybody that's been in the choir for years doing something virtually together and sending that in. We're still, honestly, because there's so much that's shifted and we don't know if we're going to be in the room, we'll be able to be, in to do something like that. We're just going to have to take each element at a time and do maybe the opener as a music video, and maybe all the hosting would be at a separate part in a separate space. And so, no, I think it's, I think Greg would say the same thing. No church is exempt to the realities of what's happening right now too. It doesn't matter how big or how much resource you've had being the key word. We're all having to be protective of what's coming so we can continue to make decisions in the future. So, I think for us, it's just been, what are these different elements that we'd already thought about? Now, how are we going to switch those and make them doable?
So great. So great. And I think that's one thing to remember is like, you've heard a bunch of ideas of how people are adjusting and how churches are adjusting. What are the adjustments that you can make in your world to make it actual and functional and authentic to who you are? Like if Drew did a choir, it would be very different than if Tyler did a choir at First Baptist Orlando. So I love that. Michael, you've joined us. Kind of give everyone that's watching just a little bit of a who you are, what you do, what your company's all about.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for letting me sneak in for a few minutes. I'm live in Atlanta. I go to North Point, but have a company called Church Fuel, and we're providing coaching and resources, kind of digital stuff to the little guy. And so I asked Stephen if I could spy, and he said okay. So we're trying to help churches navigate through all this. Nobody knows what's going on. They're all looking to, you guys and us and everybody to figure out how to make their way through. So we're trying to just provide some resources and advice and tell people.
So as churches are planning for their Easter, I just had these guys each talk a little bit about how they've adjusted. What is one or two things that you're telling churches to do to adjust on the programming side for Easter?
Yeah, I mean it's a new world, right? So we're telling them to create content for digital, not try to just live stream their Sunday. And we all probably get that, but that is such a new approach for people. That I don't think they have to show up at 11 o'clock on Sunday to have this fake experience on a stage. And we can't even create that anymore in most of our churches now. And so be exactly what you said, be authentic, be real, let people have a glimpse into your world. And I thought that thing about just being honest about the weird, like this is not what we all wanted to do today, is so good, right? It's so good. So that's what we're trying to help them process through.
That's awesome. Okay, so we know that you guys in your respective areas usually you touch and are involved in the promotion of Easter. And we all know that Easter promotion, I mean, that's the biggest budget, marketing and advertising budget that a church spends in a year, maybe Christmas, but it's right there if it's not the biggest. How has your churches adjusted? And for the sake of time, I'm just going to let you guys kind of popcorn in and talk. But what is the what are one or two things that you've adjusted or ways that you are going to try to promote this service different than you have in the past?
I'll jump in. I think some for us, we're still going to go down the digital route. If anything, we're putting a little more weight behind it. Being specific, obviously the target kind of changes because honestly, there's a bigger net. I think there's a bigger net of people open to faith right now than they would have been 3 weeks ago because people are worried and scared. So I think for us, we're really trying to make sure that message gets out there. Even our copy and our content around Invite is really kind of that piece of, hey, we know that church may not be for you, but we know in this time you may have questions that you've never had before. So we just want to welcome you to just join us for Easter. So, I mean, I would say the unique piece, one of the things we just started this weekend coming up, kind of more viral. We're unashamedly a Hillsong family church. So Cross Equals Heart has been kind of our Easter thing forever. Probably even Jimmy down in Boca has seen our stickers on people's car. It's probably bigger than our logo. Anyway, we've actually pushed people to start. We've had a great jump to online, but we've actually pushed people to start putting stuff outside their house and actually with the Cross Equals Heart and actually having fun with their kids. We've actually sent stuff home, like tracing, things like that, to really even just start the conversation, like whether it's chalk outside your house or a sign that your kids make, really leveraging to almost leverage kind of that, knowing that symbol around here always leads back to Christ Fellowship. Just working on that piece of, you might not be able to sit there and have a conversation in the driveway with your neighbors. But from a distance, what your kids are doing outside, everyone's looking for crafts. So we have so many other mediums we're still hitting, but like that one was something new that kind of came out even this last week, just trying to really involve people. We have so many people right now who are, they're actually, there's an excitement level about the digital, because they're home. So really kind of leveraging those people who are home all week in their communities, making sure that, the people around them, the people they're working with. Our other pieces right now, just full out missions world, everything we're doing with nurses and healthcare, everything like that right now, we're making sure that along the way comes an invitation to church because we're working with a lot of people who we normally wouldn't. We're serving a lot of elderly that we normally wouldn't. So even helping them engage, trying to, teach them how to engage. We've realized that in the first few weeks, really that older generation having to really work hard to help them understand, really step 1, step 2, step 3, this is how you do it, just to make it super easy.
That's awesome. And I love the home and crafts idea that's something that everyone can wrap their arms around, regardless of the size of their church. You can create a PDF and you can tell somebody to get some chalk. And I think that's super cool and very accessible. I think, Jimmy, you were going to jump in and say something.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Greg was saying, leaning a lot more into digital marketing and advertising. And for us, in our context, our average age is probably a little bit older than most churches in Boca Raton. I think Boca was like the butt of every joke in Seinfeld, so, but I think for us, it's been a lot of just educating our people on how to engage and attend church online. We have a good online audience for our size church, and it's just skyrocketed since this whole thing's happened. And so really for us, it's been teaching our church just the power of the share button. And just like right now, that's the best way to share the gospel with your friends, neighbors. You can't walk over and hand them an invite card, but you can hit the share button. And that's really small, I know, for most, but for us, that really has been our big focus the last probably 7 or 8 days.
Well, I think it's really interesting because I think so few churches actually emphasize the share button, even in regular time, regardless of their size. We get so preoccupied with number of followers and number of likes that we forget that the two metrics that are most important are shares and saves. And so I love the emphasis on sharing, I think, and use the share button to share Jesus. There's not really a better hook than that. Anybody else want to jump in?
Stephen, I was going to say, one of the things that's been, and Mike being a North Point guy would understand this, we've always talked about the foyer. And what's fascinating is it's so much easier now. Like, this has actually removed a lot of obstacle, because so many people that come in our doors, their act of worship was showing up. Well, now we've taken, and this is actually a really good thing, because like 9/11, for those of us that lived through that in church, and 2008, people want to know something. They want to find hope somewhere. They want to do these things. And so it's giving us a wide door. I think one of the things that I've loved about the way Pastor David and the team at First Baptist has leaned in is through the care ministry and through group leaders. And their group leaders are, they've got their Sunday school classes or whatever. Well, they have checked and called on every single person and asked, do you know how to get on? Do you want us to show you how to do that? Do you need to send us a tutorial? And I know that sounds old school, but it works. Like, this is a chance for us to be the church and to talk to the people on the phone. I know it's a crazy thought, but getting on the phone. So we pushed every staff member, like, whoever volunteers under your care, you need to be calling them and checking in on them. Especially now that they got a 14-day stay-at-home thing, it gives you a window to go, okay, well, for 3 hours today, I'm just going to check on my people and see how they're doing. So I think there's some old schoolness that's good right now, in the sense of, let's pastor these people well, but also realize, man, this door is wide open. There's a lot of people that we want to continue to reach, because they don't have to get in a car and go anywhere. They can just gather and do this together.
Yeah,
That's
I think,
awesome.
Stephen, on Tyler's, we spent this whole week, we installed dial pad beginning of the week on every staff member's phone, set it up, and we've just been pounding old school way, like just call them all day long. It's even got metrics, so we know how many, but it's been amazing just to see what conversations start. And yeah, it's just like you said, Tyler, it's old school, but man, it's such a connect to people. People have been surprised, really, honestly, that you're getting a phone call.
Yeah, that's actually
if I could chime in for
trying to do too. Oh yeah, go right ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, man.
Well, it is old school, but at first we started calling people in our database who were over the age of 70, just kind of checking in and making sure they were okay and felt safe. And then as the thing kind of progressed, we started, going younger and younger and younger and younger. And now we're just calling everybody. And even our kids ministry has been trying to figuring out how can we call kids and kind of get permission to do that, just to kind of engage with them during this time.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in and say I agreed with Jimmy on the whole share aspect of Facebook. I mean, we did that this last weekend, and we asked our entire staff for every single live experience, which I think we had 6 total, to share that live stream each time. And then after the weekend, to go and post the YouTube on-demand version online. And just, I can't even begin to describe the amount of people that watched church this last weekend, because we did that. So once staff start doing it, then their friends start doing it. There were watch parties happening everywhere, all over Facebook. By the way, too, like, don't limit your stream to one platform. Put it on Instagram, put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook. I think too many churches try to control that. Hey, we just want them to all come here to our website. I watched Trump's address to the nation today just because I happened to be on Facebook and I saw a news channel sharing it. I didn't know he was live, but I just watched it that way. And I would just say that's just probably one of the best ways for you to catch people's attention is don't limit the platform that you're sharing your live experience on.
So good. Michael, do you have anything to add?
I think you're right on. One of the from a messaging standpoint, we're telling churches, like, you've got to teach people it's easier than ever to invite. Inviting is easier. This is like, all you have to do is share a link, but it's also easier than ever for people to say yes. And like, where in history have we had both of those things combined together? It's easier to invite, but it's easier for people to say yes. They don't have to figure out parking or checking in kids or figure out what to wear. Everything's easy.
I love that. It's never easier to say yes. Okay, let's talk about creative.
I got one.
So, sure, Justin, go ahead. Go for it.
Yep. Starting last week, we have a texting communication system that we use during service hosting. And so starting last week, we did a 3-week invite campaign. And so we said, text this number and we'll text back to you an invitation link to invite a friend. So just send this link via text message to somebody else. And so we're doing that for 3 weeks. We had a plan in place via service video on how to invite your friends. And so we just shifted that into text this number. We'll send you a link on how to invite your friends, or just send them that invitation link. So we're doing that for 3 weeks.
Stephen, I was going to say that's huge, because this gives every church that hasn't done good data collection or good communication, like, it's forcing you to get up to speed with getting everybody connected so you can communicate like that. And I think a lot of churches have just put that as a back burner project, but this is such an important season to know how to communicate at the drop of a button to anybody, in your church. And I think using every hosting moment to, hey, just stay connected with us, text us numbers, to stay connected, do this during this time. We'll get, it's huge, man. It's so important.
So important. I totally agree. Okay. So at Easter, we pull out all the stops, like, short of actually having Jesus, the actual real Jesus coming out of the grave. We've done everything that we've known to do to create a creative moment. Everyone's a little bit limited in this season, but I believe that creativity actually thrives when you're limited and you're forced to actually get more creative and solve bigger problems. So give me one creative idea that you guys had, even if you weren't able to pull it off. Give me one creative idea that you've had for your service. And Josh Holiday, we're going to start with you.
Oh, cool. The pressure. So I think I agree with what you're saying about, I think one thing I've thought a lot about is the fact that phones are in everyone's hands right now more than ever. I think when people walk into a service, you stimulate so many senses, because it's like they're almost like surrounded by people. They're surrounded by, their music's loud. There's like, it's touch, like it's smell. It's like all these things that kind of can surround someone. And so how do you kind of move people when they're only really absorbing the content from a computer or a phone? And so I think that I've always leaned more towards the audible and the audio when it comes to Easter or just services in general. But sorry, I'm getting off sidetrack. But an idea is there's this guy named Jacob Collier, and he does this thing where he does a lot on his phone. He's an amazing artist. I think everyone should go check him out. But he has this video called Moon River, and he asked 100 of his friends, musicians like Quincy Jones, Chris Martin, like all these people. He said, hey, sing a note in the key of B. And he had 100 people, and they all picked different notes. And he took their video footage that they sent from his phone, and he just composed this beautiful, like 30-second opener to Moon River, just stacking people's audio. And it's kind of similar to, Tyler, what you're saying about like the choir element, but it's just something I saw, and I was just like, wow, this literally took people just picking up their phones and pressing record and singing a note, and something so beautiful. Probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard, just because it came from 100 different people and it came from such a raw place. And so, and so I kind of piggybacked off that idea and just thought about, how do you incorporate that with your worship teams when you have a team of 50 people? How do you keep them all engaged, connected, and involved in your Easter services? And something like that, I think, could be insane in a way.
Yeah, that's a killer idea for sure. What's another creative idea that you guys are trying to either figure out or planning to execute? We won't let any of your church members watch this, so we're not going to share your secrets. We'll block them.
Well, our big set was going to be based around this giant custom-made LED cross. That was our big thing, and we actually had someone in our church who volunteered to weld it for us. So we were all really excited about that, and then this happened. And so we kind of made this living room Edison bulb filled environment for some of our pre-recorded elements in worship and preaching too. But so we're going to keep the same backdrop, but we're going to scale that giant LED cross down a little bit more and feature that in sort of our living room setup and somehow find a way to make it work.
One of the ideas, just coming off what Josh, you said, one of the ideas it was the idea board. It didn't make it past it. But the idea of everyone stuck at home was, could we do a piece even with instrumentation from people's laptops, kind of like Zoom style, since I don't know if you've watched the stock market, but Zoom has become pretty popular in the last few days. So we were on the verge of like, could we do something like that? And we pulled back when we went more traditional. But it was something on there. It kind of hits Josh of like, it's what people's lives are right now. Like we just did my son's 3rd birthday today on Zoom on the TV in squares. So it was kind of one of those, like, could we hit it in the moment when, everyone would know exactly what we're talking about? But it just, with the production level we were going for and the traditional feel we went for and outside, it just didn't work. But could be an idea. Super easy. I mean, if you're a smaller church, like between laptops and, it's totally doable.
So we're a family church. We focus on reaching young families. So we wanted to see how can we represent young families right from the beginning and to engage young families. And so during about 3 minutes, minus 3 minutes in our countdown, we're going to zoom into the back of a living room as a family is coming to gather on the couch. And there's 3, whatever the countdown is, it's going to be on their TV. And that family is going to come and gather on the couch. And then the camera will zoom into the TV after it counts down for about 10 seconds. And when it zooms out, it's going to be in another living room with a different family doing the same thing, gathering for church. And it'll zoom back into the countdown. It'll be some kids on a couch on their iPad. And then it's eventually going to go to our service host, who's going to minus 30 seconds. We'll set up the service and welcome people. Then at 0, he'll roll into the official welcome and set up the time of worship.
Awesome. Okay. Last question. And what I think is probably the question that is going to be the most difficult to answer, but how are you guys handling follow-up in this season? How Easter is such an opportunity to assimilate new people into our community and into our movement. What are some ideas that you have that are attainable and accessible for the average church to take a next step in assimilating and connecting people back to the experience?
Easter Sunday, we're kicking off a sermon series called Life's Toughest Questions. And for our team to better prepare, we picked the first 3, but we're leaving the last one in the series, in a 4-week series, up to the congregation to pick on Easter Sunday. And so we're just kind of, part of our follow-up process is going to be kind of reminding them, hey, you can help us finish the series. What's one question that you're wrestling with? And that's been so far the main idea that we're focusing on.
Stephen, I'd go back to kind of what we talked about a minute ago too. I think it can be very organic in the communication style, which just says, I don't think most of us are going to have a portal where you have to sign in so we can get all that information. because we're trying not to keep, people aren't going to we don't want them to have to do that. We want them just to be able to click and watch. I love what Drew said about sharing, and a couple of guys said that. But I think the bigger piece is we just got to follow up through the communications channels that we have, the things that we're learning. And it's one of those things. It's like, hey, we really do want to know how you're doing. We really do want to be able to serve you during this time. Would you please make sure you communicate to us? Just text us. It's not hard. Send us an email, whatever that looks like. But the follow-up's got to be there. But it goes back to that simple. And I love that we all kept saying we're old school, or is old school. It's really not, right? It's just being the church and just being community and just going, we exist to care for these people. I think one of the greatest things that's happening right now is it's throwing out all the tools that we've had for who knows how long. And it's saying relationships matter. And we're learning that more and more. I am tired of my house right now. That is a fact. I'm ready to see some friends, and I'm ready to hug some people. I'm ready to do some of those things. But we can't yet. And so we've got to be really faithful to the authority stuff that's been around us while we communicate well what's going on and that we love these people well. So, and I think it's what Greg said, it's cross equals love. We want to bring them to Jesus. And one of the best ways to do that is to reach out to him and care for him.
We've made it simple. Yeah. Just like Tyler was saying before, we've just done keyword for everything. It's just connect. And we've just kind of done that to our own, like we have it set up in Rock. So we're able to, we have our own 441. And we've just used that one easy word for everything. And just the last 2 weekends, it's been insane. Because we haven't made a different word for this or a different word for that. We've just given it one word and just gave people when they get a link, there's just options. The amazing thing with Rock as a management system is they're putting it right in for us. So all the data is going in. It's already in a call sheet for somebody, the next day. The other thing we already started doing a little bit last weekend. This weekend we'll really tone down is we're not finishing the message live. We're actually giving a specific last point or discussion that jumps right into campus pastors on their Facebook pages. So at the end of service, our pastor's ending with either whether it be a conversation kind of point or a question that basically is being finished by the campus pastor. So we're driving people right to the Facebook Live right after. So after every live service, our campus pastors are hosting that. And even just this weekend, just leading people to that, I couldn't believe how many people, some of them are already on Facebook, some of them are watching on different platforms that jumped over into a live Facebook. We made it really easy if they weren't a part of one to find it, but just to kind of have that further conversation, which normally you would never get that close to a campus pastor, but actually being able to sit there and type in questions and have, let ministry happen. That's where we've directed all our staff. Like you're in those rooms and you're moderating and you're answering questions. So it's, you guys have this team that everyone's wanted that size team before. Now everyone is on those teams. But just trying to be as quick as we can with it. Like as Tyler said, that's all we have to focus on right now.
Man, I've been learning so much from this phone call. I'm like blown away just by all the ideas that are already out there. In fact, I'm stealing all of them that we're not already implementing and going back to Central with them this week. But one of the things that we've been doing in this season is really just doing our best to allow people to connect with us however they best connect, whether it's over the phone, whether it's text messaging with us, getting on Facebook and chatting with us. Maybe a lot of churches don't know this, but there are chat bots and things you can add to your website. So if someone comes on your website, they can immediately have a live person there to talk to them. That's huge in this season. It's just like, man, there's somebody here present right now to respond to me. Those are really helpful in this season. But I think for us, and one thing Pastor Jed has said at Central that has just been so true is like, we can never go back to how things used to be. Church will never look the same. I mean, this is a great opportunity with, obviously, many of us are stuck in our homes. And I agree with Tyler. Like, I can't wait to get out and have dinner with somebody, but church will never look the same after all this. We've got to keep moving this ball down the field and keep moving forward with inviting people through digital means and staying connected with them that way. And just like Greg mentioned, one of the things we're doing at the end of all of our weekends, this weekend, next weekend, and Easter Sunday, is we're asking people to jump onto a Zoom call or a Facebook live stream right after. And we're going to start interacting with them and helping them take next steps, whether it's if they're addicted to something or need help with a hurt habit hang up, if they want to get a part of a community group online, a Zoom group, if they need help with food, which Central just this week alone has handed out over 1 million pounds of food to the city. And we're just trying to stay on track with that. We're delivering food to elderly people in this season too, who can't get out of their homes. So we're trying to get people to move right from the church experience to a place where they can actually be in more subgroups and not in a group of 100,000 viewers all at once, but 250,000 in a webinar or on Facebook Live, where they can ask questions and we can help them take some appropriate next steps. It's also a great opportunity to collect some data from them, whether it's their email address or phone number, just so you can stay connected to them that way.
Love that. Michael, I'd love to hear from you. What are you coaching churches on as far as follow-up and retention?
I think that point there about moving people immediately from watching a service to some type of talk back environment is huge, right? Oh, here's a Zoom room. There's people there that can pray for you. I mean, kind of the stuff that we may do in a service. If you need prayer, there's people over here. If you need this, we have these people over here. And just to be available for that. And I think the Zoom stuff is great. Facebook Live is great. But just immediate, right? People are there. They need help. And just immediately point them to something. And then the point about like how to get in touch with us. I think so many times we make people talk to us the way that we prefer to be talked to. Text us. But what if they want to email? What if they want to chat? What if they, there's 4 or 5 different ways. And so we've gotten really good at there's multiple ways to give to our church. I think we need to apply that same thing. It's like, if you want to get in touch with us, here's 4 ways, pick whichever one you want, including a real human being who will answer the phone if you call. And so I think those things are huge. I mean, people just want to take an immediate step, particularly after an Easter service. That's going to be probably pretty moving for people.
If somebody doesn't sing Jesus on the Main Line, we're wasting the opportunity. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Josh, I think you said you had something.
Yeah, just an idea as I think about social media is I would activate more people in your church to become more accessible through social media. A lot of people I know when I walk into a church, I want to see someone that I feel like I could connect with. And so asking people who have a social media, it was like, hey, can we highlight you? Can we get people to, even if they connect to the church, but can they also connect to you personally and have relationships being built within the church? I think it's super important. I mean, it's social media. You might find a profile and you might know that they have mutual friends or they have same interests and stuff like that. And so really trying to highlight the people in your church as well is super important. And it's a great opportunity through social media to highlight them as well, as long as they have good social media. Post nothing crazy.
Stephen, can I add to that?
Yeah, go for it, Tyler.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that I saw, we go to Passion City when I'm at home because I live in Atlanta and help First Orlando. But one of the things they've done at the beginning of their broadcast is a promo about the church as a whole, not just, it shows pictures of the kids and the kids' environments, and it shows it's a really cool, almost another little hook just to go, hey, you're just visiting us. You haven't even really seen all that we have. But I just thought, man, what a great tool at the beginning of a broadcast to be able to continue to show people. And it's the same thing. We've shown, we've had people send in their pictures of their family watching the service, and we'll bring it up during hosting moments so that we can say, oh yeah, look, so shout out ideas, Josh, that you mentioned, but it also lets other people get a glimpse of going, okay, so we're not the only ones in this weird spot. Okay, we're not this is, everybody's kind of doing the same thing, and that's funny and that's cool. And that's a great way to do it. So I think highlighting that through social media and getting people to see these things face to face is huge.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. And Josh, I think it's almost like a digital. It's almost like having a digital welcome team. That there's 20 people with their Instagrams that are gonna greet you, or as people log in, you're actually pinging them from your personal account. Hey, welcome to church. We're so glad you're here today. So I love that concept. Guys, your time's been super valuable. I'm going to give you a closing statement. So one thing that you would say to give some hope and cast some vision for the church team that's out there today, and they're struggling to try to figure out Easter, and they've listened to this and they believe in it, but they're trying to figure it out. What's one piece of advice or hope or nugget that you could deposit in them to help them have their best Easter online this year? And Jimmy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'd say trust the Holy Spirit. Trust the Lord. throughout the church's history, the church has always thrived in times of crisis and persecution. And now is, I mean, everyone said the same thing. Now is as good a time as ever to be the church and to trust the way the Lord is leading you.
It's easy to find ourselves looking for the solution or the answer to the question we're being asked. And a mentor of mine told me last week, he said, stop looking for the solution. Keep your eyes on Jesus. The scripture that says, God keeps the man at peace whose eyes are stayed on him, the man that trusts in him. And so just continuing to keep our eyes on the Lord, and he's going to continue to resource us. He's going to give us the solution, and it's going to be way better than anything we can come up with.
Yeah, I would say I think on the piece of it, because we've been asked so many times, like, what are we going to do? Is Easter canceled? And I'm like, man, like Easter is still worthy to be celebrated more than ever before. So I think for us, just making sure as you program it, you don't try to be someone you're not. I think be true to who your church is. I think that's the best expression of who you can be. And I think for us, and Easter it means everything to us. As believers, it is everything. So I think don't feel like in this season, I think it's easy in this season to kind of fall back to the woe is me, when that's not the message of Easter. The message of Easter is specifically more than anything for times like these, there is actually hope that you can cling to. So for us, that's what it's been this week is Easter. This isn't going to be something that tears us down. And we just kind of, take one acoustic guitar and just be like, well, we're just going to sing sad songs. Like it's Easter. And people need it more than ever before. So I think just focusing on that and just knowing that whatever you creating it with that mindset of hope, and with that positivity of, hey, there's more than you could ever dream in Christ. I think that'll give even Christians in this moment hope that they may not be reminded of, but for new people, man, it is the hope that they can cling to in a moment like this.
I'll go and I'll disagree with Greg because Elton John said that sad songs say so much. So I don't know. I'm not sure if you're right about that, but my sentiment is the same. Keep it simple. I think it's going to be, there's so many buttons, there's so many things, there's so many different avenues that you could try to take all of this down, and just try to love your people well, give them a message of hope, because that's what we all need right now. I think in the midst of this, we have to realize we're all human too. And we're all like, whoa, what is happening? Like it's jolting for us as much as it is, but that's part of pastoring, is standing in front and going, my faith. And so my other big encouragement, it's similar to what Jimmy said. If you're not connected personally in your walk with Jesus right now, you're helping curate space for others, and it's got to be an overflow of who you are. And so my encouragement this time is making sure that you're reading the word and that you're praying and your family's praying together, and you come into these idea sessions, you come into these Easter seasons ready to overflow for these people you're serving.
So good. Drew?
Man, one thing that's been really inspiring to me in this season is just been reading the story of Joseph and how Pharaoh went and got Joseph out of prison to help interpret this dream that he's having. And Joseph says to the Pharaoh, when he says, can you interpret this? He said, I don't have the answers, but I know the one who does. And man, that's just, I feel like that's the hope we can give people in the season. We don't have all the answers. Don't try to be right. Just point them to Jesus in this season. Give them hope, just as Greg said a few minutes ago. And look back at this season and see it as a blessing that maybe God was going to give the church the opportunity to take the gospel into more unlikely places than we've ever seen before. This is a great blessing for us to take the gospel all over the world.
Awesome. And Josh, anything that you would pontificate for us?
Yeah, kind of like what Jimmy said, but definitely just trust the content. Trust the content over. I don't think, from a creative perspective, I don't think it's time to be the creative ambulances where we just go and we just figure, okay, how can we be the most creative? How can we do this stuff? I think it's we have to be more empathetic than that, and trust the content that we're preaching on and we're singing on, and trust that it's going to do what it needs to do. I think we don't want to distort the message, we don't want to distort anything with our ambition of being creative in this time. I'm not saying don't be creative, because I love creativity and I want people to always push the envelope, but in this time, we have to balance creativity and empathy and respect of people's time and the messages and what people are actually feeling. And so, yeah, I think my main message or point would be is just to trust the content, trust the Holy Spirit, trust what God's trying to do in this time. He knows he knows we're going to be here. He knew this was how Easter was going to be. And so let's lean on him because clearly he has a plan.
So good. Michael, are you still with us? I think we may have lost Michael. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your time and for the ministry that you guys are doing and the way that you're just adjusting and adapting in the world that you're in right now. You guys are pulling crazy hours. I know I've talked to each of you individually on some level. I've worked harder the last 2 weeks than I've worked, and I'm a workaholic. So like that's saying a lot. And the last 2 weeks I've put in more hours than I ever have. So I know that you guys are too. I know those that are watching are too. So in this moment, I just want to encourage you, keep doing what you're doing. Do it as best as you can. Don't waste this crisis. Like learn something from it. Take advantage of the moment, and then let's just see what happens. I believe that God's about to do something crazy in and through our churches, and it's never going to look the same. But man, it could look really, really special. So thank you guys so much.